The Celtics shot 60 opening night, and I'm assuming they've shot around that.
61.
I'm assuming they shot around that ballpark every game since.
Since then,
They are shooting 50 a game.
50 a
50
game?
long balls.
And that Warriors team averaged around 30.
31 and a half.
Okay, guys, I know that Warriors team has Steph and Clay, but what's the comparison? Like, if we were to scale them up to 50, would they be still shooting at the same rate that the Celtics do? Would they still be as good of a shooting team?
Right now, the Celtics lead the league in 3-point attempts and 3-point percentage.
That's ridiculous.
So they're the best.
But it's 4 games. It's 4 games, so it's reasonable to assume that the percentage will come down. But right now, they're shooting 53s at 43%.
But they did it last year, though, Moss. I mean, they led the league in percentage last year. They led the league in attempts last year.
OKC led the league in attempts percentage last year.
So they led the league in attempts last year. They led the league in threes last year.
They were second in percentage last year. See, big difference. I know. I knew OKC led in percentage.
I was pretty confident that they led the league in percentage last year. Okay, they were second. Yeah, so they're second in the league in percentage.
Yeah, that's close enough, Chill. Especially when you lead the league in attempts.
And makes too. And makes too, Ron. So now we're at a point where these guys are shooting, like you just said, 51 a game. 50 a game? So 50 a game, that's what? 12 a quarter that they're getting up. That's what they're getting up on average, around 12 a quarter.
So that's one every minute.
Yeah.
Yes.
One 3 a minute. 1 3 a minute.
Yes. Yeah. And not only is that one a minute, not only is that 1 a minute, Ox. So we're the best in the league at this. You can't compete against us at this. You have to find another way to beat us. You have to. Because you're not going to beat us this way. You're not.
That's just great basketball. I mean, what else can you say?
I mean, people are trying to change the rules on them. That's how you know you're doing something right. When people are trying to change the rules on you because what you're doing apparently isn't fair, you're probably doing something right. So
hold on, wait. I might be out the loop. What rule are they trying to change?
They're saying that because of how 3-point reliant the NBA is in Boston they want to try and incentivize twos. I've seen someone try and say make dunks worth 3 points. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But like,
are these people with any power that are saying this, or just random people?
Define power. Like voices,
voices that got power, like people that can actually
Nick Wright is the one who said make dunks worth 3 points. So he doesn't have power, but he has a strong voice in the basketball world. But he's not going to make the league change anything. But a lot of media people are saying that some things need to change. I don't agree with them in terms of they need to change because of Boston, but I've always said I would be open to changing some things to make defense easier or just make offense harder. But definitely not making dunks worth 3 points. But I think Boston should take that as a testament to how good they are.
Last I checked, if I'm not mistaken, dunks are worth 3 points when you go to the free throw line.
Not if it's Giannis who gets the M1 because you know he's gonna miss that free throw.
Layups are worth 3 points. Dunks are worth 3 points when you go to the free throw line. Finish it. There you go. So it's that simple. Now teams are not just gonna give up dunks. I mean, teams could just give up layups and give up dunks, but eventually you're gonna have to come up with a different strategy in order to win because there's no way that we could just continue to just try to match what the Boston Celtics do. We saw what happened with Cleveland. Cleveland didn't get into a shootout with the Golden State Warriors. No, we're not going to. When as good as Steph Curry, as good as Steph Curry is, as good as Klay Thompson is, as good as that team is shooting the long ball. Okay, we can't do that. That's not us. So we have to do something different. That's James getting downhill. That's James playmaking. That's James getting to the rim, putting a lot of pressure on the rim, getting to the free throw line, getting their big guys in foul trouble, playing defense and guarding the long ball line as well as you possibly can. We can't get into a long ball shootout contest with the Golden State Warriors. They'll wipe the floor with us. Same logic with the Boston Celtics. We can't get into a long ball shooting contest with them. We got to get guys to get downhill. We got to get guys to play in the mid-range more. We got to get guys to get to the rim and put those guys in foul trouble. Because if you got Drew Holiday knocking down wide open long balls and you don't make him defend or don't put him in precarious situations. Same thing with Derek White. If you don't do that, then you're going to get mopped. You're going to get straight mopped if you think you're just going to get into a shootout with this team. It's not going to happen.
I agree. You got to find other ways to win. But I know people around these parts of town don't like basketball, right? But just from a logical perspective, if a team is shooting 53s a game at 43%, That's
two out of
about,
every five. That's two out
that's
of every
about,
five.
what is that? That's about 60 some points a game just off threes. I think
Mhm.
60 some points a game just off threes.
Yep.
How do you keep up with that team based on shooting 2-pointers? How do you keep up? Like, just because whether we like it or not, basketball is a game of mathematics. So like, you have
100%.
to score more points. So if they are getting all of those points from threes,
Yep.
how do you keep up?
The way that you keep up, one is like I just talked about with Cleveland. Okay, we got to get to the rim and we got to put pressure on the rim, get to the free throw line, and get more points from there. Put their team in foul trouble where they don't shoot threes as much. We got to guard the long ball line better. We can't just hope that they miss. No, we got to guard at the long ball line better. We got to put more pressure on the rim. We got to get those guys who are great 3-point shooters. We got to get them not necessarily in foul trouble, but we got to make them guard. And to answer your question about with twos, the way we supplement those threes is we got to get to the free throw line more. And the way we get to the free throw line is we got to put pressure on the rim and get guys to foul and finish plays at the rim, get more and ones. That way, it's not to say that we can't shoot the long ball, because we're going to have to shoot the long ball. I've said this to you in the past, Mars. Boston has the unique way of making you play the way they play. They're so good at it. But we can also make you play the way we play too, by getting to the rim, by making you foul, by getting to the free throw line. That changes up your defense now. And now you can't shoot the long ball as much because you got to guard a different way. And that's going to take a lot of energy away from you.
Mars, I don't know the answer to that question. You know what I'm saying? When you come across a team like that, that's a war room answer. That's a war room situation where we got to sit down and we got to watch film. We got to find where that weak spot is, and that's on the coach. That's on the staff 100%. Coaches got to coach for you to beat a team like this. But I will say more. The only thing I will say is that we got to apply ball pressure. We have to stop the ball. We can't let them walk it down and get into their stuff. We have to apply a lot of ball pressure, and we can't be doing those fake closeouts. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Those fly by, these closeouts, those are not closeouts.
Hold on, no.
You got to actually close out on the shooters. That fly by stuff it helps the shooters. If you ask me, that's just giving them an open shot, just letting them line it up. It's a bad closeout. We have to really close out on shooters, and we have to apply immense ball pressure. Other than that, Morris, I have no idea. Like I said, that's on the coaching staff. We got to get in a war room session and sit there, watch film, scout. We have to figure out where is their weak spots on offense, where are their weak spots on defense, who do we pick on? You know what I'm saying? We got to really get down and break it down to the nitty-gritty. And then you know what we got to do after that, Morris? We got to pray.
Well, Ox, you just said you don't have any idea. You do. You have that's a great idea. Okay. Well, one, the pickup point has to be higher. Right? So you just said it. Okay, so the pickup point has to be higher. We can't have Drew Holiday just running down the floor. We can't have Jason Tatum unmolested just coming to the basket. No, we can't have that. No, that pause, Mars.
I say anything. Carry on. I say anything.
As I was saying, we can't have these guys just coming. We can't have these guys just running to the rim and getting a full head of steam. No. So to your point, the pickup point has to be higher. That's number one. Number two, we got to guard better at the long ball line. We have to close out better. Right. And when you talk about closing out, that means I'm in a stance and I'm shuffling my feet when I'm closing out. I'm not just flying by a guy. I'm shuffling my feet and I'm stopping and I'm getting a hand up. Now, if he knocks down a shot 27 feet away from me, 27 feet away from the basket while I'm closing out, you know what? There's really nothing that I can do about that. Right. There's nothing. But when he's 27 feet away from the basket and I'm at a position and I'm flying by him, you know what, Ox, he got to come out the game. We got to get him off the floor. Because that's a recipe for disaster right there. We can't.
I would never think that at this level we would have to be doing closeout drills. You know where you're running the two lines and you're closing out and you're sliding your feet to you're getting back. I wouldn't think that we'd have to do that in the NBA, but that's a drill we'd have to do for a while, like just to get that in our minds. Like when we play this team, we're closing out, We're moving our feet. We're not going to jump and then let them penetrate because we know that's what these teams want to do now. Right. If they can't get that open shot, they're going to penetrate, swing it, kick it to the corner, or kick it to another shooter. So we can't break down on the closeout. Something as simple as a pump fake or a flyby should not be breaking down our defense. So we you know what I'm saying? That's something that like I said, I don't think we have to go over that, but that's something we got to go over.
Ox, I feel you on this, and I got a couple questions regarding just closing out. First off, you do know who you're dealing with, right? Like I'm pretty sure that all 29 other GMs in the league, when Steph and Clay was on their run, were being told, do not jump, do not close out, do this, that, and the third. When you out there on that court, in chat, I'm assuming you guys play basketball, so you guys know this. When you playing with somebody that you know can shoot, and you have in that moment in time, it's like a fight or flight type reaction. When you're playing help defense and then you gotta get out to the 3-point line and contest the shot as much as possible, it's kind of like your brain goes out the window, and the only thing you're thinking of is do what you can to contest the shot. Now, whether that's right or not, I'm not gonna get into that. I just want to ask you, Ox, you think it's better to do a flyby closeout or to close out short?
You don't got to close out short, but we're not like you just can't fly by. That's not a closeout. You're not doing anything. Good shooters aren't just gonna just shoot the ball into your hand. So you're just running and jumping on somebody that has the ball caught maybe in a 3-point stance, or they're just catching the ball. If I'm running and I'm jumping only Steph Curry, only Steph and Clay are shooting you know what I'm saying? Not only, but you know what I mean? Like that's just. We got to just close out. And I know what you're saying, Ron, where, you got to use your think box. You know what I'm saying? You got to be locked in.
It'd be hard, bro.
I know it's hard, but that's the point. Like, if we're not going to do the hard things, if we're not going to do the extra things, if we're not going to be extra disciplined, then we're not going to beat this team that is better than you. You can't have mental breakdowns and beat a team that's better than you. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? This team is better. So it's like now we gotta do the extra stuff. We have to stay disciplined. You know what I'm saying? We can't have mental breakdowns. And if we have mental breakdowns, then all this stuff we're talking about is for no reason. We do that. Like we've seen how many times, and I believe, Chill, you brought this up a minute ago. How many times did we see back in 16, 17, 18, 19 teams try to shoot it out with the Warriors? Like, bro, you cannot beat this team shooting it out with the Warriors. They're better than you. They're better at what you're trying to do. Way better. Well, I mean, okay. Well, but you know what I'm saying? You can't do that though, Mars. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a, let me not say what you can't do, but I wouldn't try to do it, and I think it's a recipe for disaster.
That's the thing though. Like y'all shot it out with them until y'all couldn't anymore. Y'all literally ran out of bullets.
This is what happens when you play against a team where you try to beat them at their game, which was your game too. But then, when you go 0 for 27, that's kind of what happens. I apologize, Mars, but that's what happens.
Sure, don't apologize. That was not Mars was a Warriors fan at that moment in time.
And by the way, yeah, he was a Warriors.
In hindsight,
he was happy that was going on.
He was a Warriors fan, but this is what happens where this is what happens where you can get into a shootout with a team like the Warriors, and then you're gonna end up losing your shirt. No, there are teams who we play this way, so. You play this way, so we're just going to have to play this way. But then there are teams where we can't play this way. We can't. No, not against these dudes. We can't do that. We got to switch up our style. And I think that's what's so great about the Boston Celtics. We talk about them a lot, how much they shoot the long ball, but they're also a chameleon too. They can play. I seen Al Horford play on the block. I seen Jaylen Brown get to the rim. These guys, they do shoot the long ball a lot, but they can turn up their offense by turning up their defense, which creates offense for them. So they can play in a number of different ways. It's not just, we're just gonna stand behind the long ball line and shoot the long ball all night. No, they're good enough that we can switch up. And if you want to play ugly, we can play ugly too.
You got to make them play ugly. I think you have to make them play ugly. And then I saw someone in the chat, I think it was Max, that said about the spacing and the inability to close out due to the spacing in the NBA now. And once again, like it might sound basic, but it's like you got to find guys in transition. And this is I'm talking about these special teams. I'm talking about teams like those Warriors, those Rockets, these Celtics. When we got to scheme for these teams. It's like that's the only way to beat them. So it's kind of like, especially like in the playoff setting, which is it looks damn near impossible to beat this team 4 times. But you got to stay disciplined for 4 games, and you got to find guys early in transition. On top of that, it's not one of those situations where, look, I'm guarding him, I'm guarding him, I'm guarding him. You stay. Oh, the landing space. Oh, got you.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, just don't jump. Stay. Don't jump. Stay down. I see what you're saying. But still, you got to find guys in transition, and it's not like, oh, I got more wrong, you got chill. Nah, we gonna figure. If I'm closer to I got chill, you get more. We got to have hand signals, loud nose arenas. You got to do something, bro. You can't just. I just hate to see teams settling for getting beat down. Like, too much pride playing style. Like, you can't do what they're doing. But
now remember too,
somebody early. Just hold on tight, man.
Dominate the conversation. But now remember. Now, when you're playing whatever team you're playing against as a defense, we're not going to be able to stop everything, especially when you're playing against a great offense, right? We're not going to be able to stop everything. We're going to have to give something up, right? So if you're playing against the Boston Celtics, and okay, we know that this team shoots the long ball at a ridiculous clip. Okay, so who do we not? Oh, okay, let me rephrase that. Who are we going to live with shooting the long ball? Of the guys that are out there, right? Because we know that we know that those guys all are going to shoot the long ball. Which one of these guys that we're looking at, and not just starting 5, but the guys in the rotation, who are we looking at? Okay, I'll live with him shooting the long ball. With the contesting him, but I'll live with him doing it. I can't have Jason Tatum shooting wide open long balls. I can't have Drew Holiday shooting wide open long balls. So who are we going to live with shooting the basketball? And on top of that, if we're going to crowd at the long ball line, what are we going to give up? Okay, so am I going to give up these guys getting to the rim? If I give up these guys getting to the rim, you know what that means? That means that they're not shooting the long ball as much. And if they're not shooting the long ball as much, that means that they're at a rhythm. So that's a good thing also. So the spacing that we talk about with having to cover a lot of space, I understand the landing space, sure. But the spacing that we talk about, if I'm going to have to let these guys get to the rim more and give up less long balls, I think I'm more comfortable with that. And I'm more comfortable with a guy in their rotation like Pritchard. I'll live with Pritchard shooting the long ball.
You see what happened the other night, Chill?
I saw him go 1 for 10 on opening night, Ron. I'm good with that.
I mean, but we seen Jason Tatum go 8 for 10, and we've seen Jason Tatum go 1 for 10. So
yes.
that's the thing. I could pick Jason Tatum too.
Yeah,
but the thing about this Celtics team is the reason why I don't like just singling out one guy and saying, let's just say it's Jaylen Brown, for instance. And we do know that Jaylen Brown can go in a heater too. And he can have a bad shooting night, just like all of them. Mm-hmm. But let's say it's Jaylen Brown. I would say he's the most reasonable guy. We're just going to give him through, or we're going to leave him open, or he's going to be the person we least close out to, and we're going to center in on the other guys. The thing about that is, what happens when the defense gets broken down?
The Warriors tried it and lost by 50. Like, we have a case study of a team trying that exact thing with Jaylen Brown, and they lost by 50. Like, the exact thing Ron just suggested. They lost by 50. The exact concept. Jaylen Brown, his numbers in terms of wide open shooting from 3 was the worst on the team. So it was like, we're going to leave Jaylen Brown and we're not going to worry about it. They then proceeded to lose by 50. Like, this is why I said, like, I'm not like the biggest fan of like the advanced analytics and stuff, but I do understand how efficiency works. And I just have a hard time understanding how you beat a team 4 times out of 7 when they shoot more 3s than everyone. They make them more than everyone. And then on the other end, they foul less than every team in the NBA. They turn the ball over less than every team in the NBA. And they're one of the best defensive rebounding teams in the league. Like, I don't like, because they're not going to give you extra possessions by not turning it over, by giving up offensive rebounds, or by putting you on the line by fouling. So they don't do those things.
Sure.
And they're just going to score more points per possession than everyone anyway. They're leading the league in transition efficiency. Like, I don't understand how you're meant to beat them. Just mathematically, they might not be the most talented team ever. They might not be the best team in terms of they got Kevin Durant and Steph. Like, but mathematically, how do you beat a team that shoots 53s at the highest clip in the league and doesn't foul or commit turnovers? Like, they're not giving you any avenue to win consistently.
I do want to say this though, Mars. Just for some clarification here. I'm against basketball. I'm not against playing the numbers game. You know what I'm saying? That's different.
Okay.
Those two things aren't the same. They're not.
He against Vorp, basically, is what he's trying to say.
Right, like
You know,
there's you gotta play the numbers game. Like for instance, so like at a lower level, like you know what I'm saying, high school, some college levels, stuff like that. I stand on scoring in out of bounds plays. If I can get 8 out of bounds points and maybe 10 or 12
that's
more.
huge.
As many
That's
as I can.
huge.
Even
if you can get 6, Ox, if you can get 6 points off out of bounds plays, that's huge.
If you can score quick out of bounds and not have to get the ball in bounds and run something, if I can score quick out of bounds and I can get my hand on enough steals to where I can, or just rebound quick outlets to turn them into transition points, get 12, 14 plus transition points, you should win that basketball game. You know what I'm saying, but just based on numbers at that level. I'm not talking about the NBA. You know what I'm saying? We should be able to win those games.
So with everything that like what I just brought up and suggested, and what Ox just suggested, and Ron talked about, okay, we're gonna make Jaylen Brown, the closeout guy. Okay, we'll see, and then they ultimately beat the Warriors by 50. What are we looking at with this What are we looking at with this Celtic team? Are we looking at a run with this Golden State, with this Boston Celtic team? Are we looking at a team that, like, we better get used to seeing them because they're going to be around for a while?
I mean, I think they're going to be around for a while, but I think the league adjusts so quickly, that teams are going to not find the counters, but they're going to catch up in terms of this is how the game is going to be played.
Right.
I think OKC are already doing that. Like the name of the game now is going to be versatility, shooting, and winning the possession game. I think coaches are talking about it. Anytime you watch a team, you can see what the emphasis is. They might not all do it the same way, but the end goal is all the same. You want to get more shots than the other team. You want to give them less opportunities, and you want to shoot the most efficient shots.
Sure.
So teams are going to start doing that. Is a team going to have the personnel that Boston do, and the scheme that Boston do, and the attention to detail that Boston do? I don't know. But teams are going to try and catch up to them. It's not going to be like, oh, we're just going to let Boston win 6 in a row before we make an adjustment. That's not going to happen. Teams are already doing it. It's just, and you do it. And it's not about playing Boston's game, but you have to play the numbers better than Boston play the numbers. We might not like it. We might think it takes away from the purity of basketball. But whether we like it or not, Boston are going to win if you don't play the numbers game like Boston. You don't have to shoot 53s, but you have to find a way to get the numbers in your favor. There's many ways to do it. It doesn't have to just be by shooting threes, but you have to do it in some capacity. Right now, Boston are playing the numbers better than anyone. They don't foul. They don't turn the ball over. They don't give up offensive rebounds, and they shoot more threes than anyone. Like, that's the perfect way to play the numbers practically. The only teams that can do something similar is if you have the same level of versatility and similar shooting ability. That's why I'm so high on OKC. OKC play the numbers. They shoot the three at a very good clip. Usually this season, they've started off horribly, but they usually shoot at a good clip. They force more turnovers than Boston, which is extremely valuable. The issue with them is they don't rebound like Boston does. So their rebounding is where their hole is. But I would argue they have better isolation scorers. They have more in terms of 3-level ability, in terms of the mid-range, the rim. They have a guy who gets to the free throw line more than Boston. So they're playing the numbers too. They're just doing it in a different way. But whether we like
Isaiah
it or not,
coming back too, Mars. So they rebound shit.
Hartenstein, exactly. And Isaiah Hartenstein will solve a lot of their offensive rebounding issues for sure. Defensively, I'm not very high on him, but I mean, that doesn't matter. Right. They're going to help. Point is, you have to play the numbers in order to win in this modern NBA. It's a simple mathematical game. Right. And Boston just do that really well, which is why I don't think Boston are the best team ever. But I have a hard time saying that these teams from 20, 30 years ago beat Boston. Just from a mathematical perspective. They're shooting 12 threes a game 40 years ago. Like, you're not going to beat Boston shooting 12 threes. No matter how good you are, no matter how talented the Showtime Lakers were, they shot 12 threes. They're making 3 threes a game. That's 9 points. They're not going to score enough points. No matter how good Magic Johnson is, no matter how good Kareem is, they aren't going to score enough.
Even if we play fast and we get in transition, we got Jabbar at the rim, not just only having Jabbar at the rim, but we got Magic getting downhill. We may have to up that 3-point percent, not 3-point percentage, up that 3-point attempts, but
chill percentage too, though. They can't just come out and chuck and miss.
But the 87 Lakers led the league in percentage at 37%. Yeah. But guess how many they attempted a game?
Like 6.
Ron, you have a guess?
I'll go with 10.
5.5 threes a game.
Yeah,
They made 2. They made 2 a game.
That's not enough, yo.
Like
It's
you're not
enough.
like no matter how good the 87 Lakers are, and we know how good the
It's not
87
enough.
Lakers were. Chill was around, but if you've gone back and watched, that's one of the best offenses of all time, one of the best transition offenses of all time. Scoring 6 points a game from the
That's not
3-point line,
enough.
you aren't going to win. Boston is scoring 60 points at the 3-point line. Like you're already down 54
20.
before we even get into the transition offense, before we get into layups, before we get into the free throw line. You're already down 54. Like you're starting down 54. That's the equivalent of what the situation is. The team from the 80s is starting down 50 against Boston. So they have to make up a 50-point deficit in 48 minutes. And I know that's not how Boston was actually played. Like they can run them off the 3-point line and take some of them as attempts down. But just from the most simplistic aspect,
And that's what I'm thinking.
Teams from back then would start down 50 from the most simplistic aspect of it. Like you're not making up 50 points in 48 minutes. You're just not.
And that's what I'm thinking. Maybe they would get maybe the Celtics, maybe the Lakers, maybe the Bulls. They would have to get the Celtics, get the Warriors. I'm gonna have to get these guys to, because we can't play like them. No, we can't. What we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to get them to play more like us. And how are we gonna get them to play more like us? We have to put them in foul trouble. We got to get to the rim. In addition to getting to the rim,
but they don't foul, chill.
Yeah, and but here's the difference. They don't foul today. Now, in a different time, I think
when the game was more physical and they allowed more contact.
Right, when they allowed more contact. Now here's the difference, Mars. When the game was more physical and they allowed more contact, that means I can be more physical. And if I can be more physical, that means that I can maybe knock you off your pivot and I can throw you off your rhythm. Now, if I can do that, then that may slow your offense down, which brought me to the point when you brought up about, teams being around. Okay, so when I saw Shaq and Kobe, when I said that, okay, this team, I feel like they're going to be around for a while. Because in the end, everything that you just said about being able to slow a team down, ultimately, I have this and you don't. I got Shaq and you don't have him. And I feel like that's the difference. Like the Golden State Warriors, they had Curry. Cleveland, they had James. This Boston Celtic team, at some point, one of these guys has to step to the forefront where you're able to go, if they're going to make that kind of run, one of these guys has to step to the forefront where you're going to be able to say, we don't have that. Shooting the long ball, at some point, we may be able to supplement that because, like you said, the game changes. And with the game changing, we can see other teams having better shooters. Okay, so now where's the separator? The separator comes in where, okay, we don't have Shaq. That's why we're getting a bunch of guys who foul. That's why we're getting a bunch of guys to load up on him because we don't have that. We got the other stuff. We don't have that.
It's the player choice break.